Thailand and Cambodia are trading blows as a war is quietly unfolding in Southeast Asia. Both are exchanging heavy artillery fire along a long-standing disputed border. Fighter jets now in the sky, civilians already dying, tens of thousands more fleeing. Leaders on both sides though are warning that this could simply be the beginning of much worse to come. So how did two ASEAN neighbours, long considered pillars of regional stability despite their respective histories, end up on the brink of all-out war? In this video, I want to explain what is actually going on, why it matters, and what could happen next in an area which often isn't really looked at much in modern geopolitics, but could well be yet another reflection of how the global order and times are changing.
This is The Global Gambit.
How's it going? Welcome to the channel, where on the Global Gambit we try to touch upon geopolitical and macroeconomic natures in their entirety. We do focus predominantly on, say, Europe, Ukraine, Russia. We do cover as well the Middle East and moments of tension. Of course, say, for example, the Chinese theatre over Taiwan. But in this case, in Southeast Asia, it's slightly different. Because on July 24th, Thailand and Cambodia entered open conflict over a long-running border dispute, exchanging gunfire and airstrikes in the deadliest clash between these two in more than a decade, specifically since 2011. These developments follow months of simmering tensions and do mirror those crises at what's known as the Verge temple. But this time the stakes may be even higher, not just for the two countries involved, but for the broader regional bloc known as ASEAN as a whole. And given the state of overall hostilities and tensions worldwide, cast your minds back to May between Pakistan and India, for example, it's difficult to tell just how far this could go. At the time of recording, at least 16 people are dead and over 150,000 have been displaced. What started as a mere border skirmish has now spiraled into dangerous military confrontation and a critical test of this ASEAN unity. Acting Thai Prime Minister Phumtham Wachayachai has already said what many fear, that this conflict could escalate into full-scale war. And that's without even getting into the domestic concerns within Thailand itself. So what has happened and where and why? Though the latest outbreak of fighting began in July of 2025, the history of Thai-Cambodian tensions, of course, runs much deeper. The two countries have long had, say, a prickly relationship shaped by colonial era demarcation lines, historical mistrust, and shifting great power alignments. For example, during the Cold War, Thailand backed US-aligned anti-communist forces, while Cambodia experienced regime change, civil war, and Vietnamese occupation in light of Pol Pot's atrocities. These dynamics fueled deep suspicion and militarized borders, unsurprisingly. But in the post-Cold War era, the relations did improve, bolstered by this regionalism of the bloc of ASEAN, integration, and mutual economic growth. But the border has always remained very tense and somewhat of a political powder keg. Cambodia's efforts to internationalize ownership of these ancient temples, particularly Preah Vihear and Tha Mon Thom, reignited nationalist sentiment in both countries. Thailand has viewed such moves as strategic overreach, while Cambodia framed them as exercises in sovereignty. Geopolitically speaking, both countries have also been pulled in different directions. Cambodia has drawn closer to China economically, diplomatically, and militarily, while Thailand, a little bit more nuanced, though sometimes ambivalent, has largely, in the eyes of most analysts, remained within the United States' strategic orbit. And of course, as China, or perhaps India by a broader extent, have grown in their regional and global aspirations, this has put more pressure on a region where, well, the United States has been turning its back or had its attention divided in recent years, or particularly in the past 2-3 years because of Ukraine, the Middle East, and such. Now, these alignments have, of course, heightened any sense of competition and suspicion. The result, meaning a long smouldering dispute that regional diplomacy has never fully extinguished and most have always felt has never gone far enough. Indeed, ASEAN, as someone who follows regional blocs, is rather a feckless organisation, having done very much, well, nothing towards resolving the Myanmar civil war, which I have worked on extensively in my time in the UN. The most recent clash between Thailand and Cambodia, though, has exchanged near around the Prasat Tamon Thom temple in Surin province. According to Thai military officials, Cambodian troops have deployed drones and BM rockets near Thai military outposts. Therefore, in response this week, Thailand launched airstrikes using F-16 fighter jets to hit military targets across Cambodia. Meanwhile, Cambodia has accused Thailand of initiating this attack and targeting both military and civilian infrastructure, a case of my word against yours. The escalation came just a day after Thailand recalled its ambassador and vowed to expel Cambodia's envoy in Bangkok, following a landmine blast that injured 5 Thai soldiers. So the diplomatic collapse has since been total and rapid. All land crossings have been shut, embassies are being emptied, and both governments are trading threats through the press. Now, to understand the timeline of this escalation, let's break it down very simply because things have happened in quite a rapid time. From February, Cambodian tourists sang national anthems at the disputed temple. Thai troops intervened after this was seen as provocation. In May of 2025, a Cambodian soldier was killed in a skirmish in what's known as the Emerald Triangle. Last month, Cambodia blocked Thai imports and banned Thai cultural content. Thai PM Patrongta Shinawatra held a call with Hun Sen, linked audio revealing criticism of Thai military actions and leading to the respective one's suspension. Then, as of July, from 16th to 23rd of this month, 2 landmine blasts maimed Thailand soldiers. Thailand expelled Cambodia's ambassador in response. And then, just this week, all-out shelling and airstrikes suddenly erupted, though it's not entirely clear who ignited this latest level of escalation. And it's not merely a territorial dispute anymore. It's the convergence of these various historical grievances, political instabilities, and nationalist fervour, which is really developing within both countries. So why does this matter? Well, as I've outlined, the roots of this conflict stretch back over a century. Thailand and Cambodia have a rocky relationship shaped by colonial era borders, particularly related to the French, Cold War interference and proxy struggles throughout, say, the 1980s onwards. Tensions have re-erupted in, say, 2008, for example, over Cambodia's bid to list the Preah Vihear Temple as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, triggering military build-ups that culminated in military clashes in 2011. The ICJ ruled in 2013 the lands around the temple were, resident to Cambodia, but left surrounding areas unresolved, including Tamon Thom. The timing is also telling. In Thailand, the crisis has exposed deep political divisions. The Pathongtan Shinawtra's suspension, for example, has left a fragile coalition government under acting PM Phum Tham. The Thai military may use this instability to push for greater power, as we've seen occur in Myanmar, for example. Conversely, Prime Minister Han Manet, son of Hun Sen, is using the conflict to rally this national support as the economy really stumbles, a classic move to sort of distract from alien economic pressures by flaming nationalist sentiment. But inflaming those tensions to consolidate power also carries risk. Once unleashed, war has a way of, outrunning any political usefulness. So far, though, 15 Thais, mostly civilians, and 1 Cambodian have lost their lives. In Sesgat, a Cambodian rocket hit a gas station, for example, killing 6. Hospitals have evacuated patients, schools are now closed, and entire towns near the border are being emptied. That's over 138,000 Thais and 20,000 Cambodians displaced already. The UN agencies working in the area warn of growing humanitarian needs if the conflict continues. Then we have to consider, of course, the military balance between these two powers. It's no contest. Thailand's military vastly outguns Cambodia's, boasting 360,000 troops and $5.7 billion of defense budget. Cambodia, in contrast, has fewer than 130,000 personnel, and far less air power. But that imbalance may not prevent prolonged hostilities. Cambodia's terrain may be more appealing or suitable for any land ground operations, though it's unlikely to see full-scale conflict of that level, at least at the moment, especially as well if fighting remains confined to that contested jungle terrain. What's interesting is Cambodia is reportedly modernizing its arsenal with Chinese-made KS-1C air defenses, and its pivot to the Chinese military suppliers has drawn scrutiny from Thai and ASEAN analysts, but also a potential another test of Chinese hardware versus Western, as we saw in the case of Pakistan and India. A video of that you can find on screen. Neither side, though, wants to appear weak, and neither side appears ready to negotiate, at least at the time of recording. The war itself has now sent economic shockwaves across Southeast Asia. All 7 Thailand-Cambodia boardings are closed, which has altered about 1.5 billion in cross-border trade. Thai logistics firms face cost spikes of up to 30% as supply chains have to reroute, and the Thai baht has dropped about 0.5% since the conflict began. Conversely, Cambodia's stock market has been hit even harder, down 12% in only July, and fuel shortages, panic selling, and a 70% collapse in tourism have battered the country's economic confidence despite tourism efforts to reassure people. Then, of course, there is the broader winners and losers. Of course, not every sector is suffering. Defence stocks have and continue to surge. Thai aerospace industries and Siam defence systems, for example, have outperformed the index by 15% since May, and advanced armament companies are scaling up production. Meanwhile, Cambodia's pivot to China has also boosted defence contractors not only within their own country, but broader across into Beijing. So, aside from the economic fallout and the regional clashes themselves, ASEAN's credibility is on the line. Malaysia's PM Anwar Ibrahim has called for peace talks, and Singapore, Vietnam, and the Philippines have all issued calls for restraint. But Indonesia, ASEAN's traditional power broker, is somewhat missing. President Prabowo has remained rather silent, even though Indonesia led de-escalation during the 2011 crisis, for example. And with ASEAN's multilateral mechanisms, seemingly faltering, although, again, in my opinion, they've never really worked, the region does look increasingly fragmented. This is very much another litmus test for ASEAN. If it can't mediate this dispute, which is far easier seemingly to deal with than Myanmar, which has essentially been seen as a failed state for much of its 21st century existence, then does it have any relevance at all? And of course, then, there's China. Indeed, in all of this, China is in a bit of a difficult position. While they do have good supply routes with Cambodia, they obviously don't want to be seen as taking sides on this, as they seem to be rather the case with any international incident at the moment, taking a while to exactly outline where they sit. And given that this is directly in their, shall we say, sphere of influence or near abroad, it is the worst thing that China could want at the moment. Cambodia has requested the UN involvement, for example, and welcomed ASEAN mediation, but Thailand has rejected any third-party facilitation for now. Both believe that bilateral negotiations have yet to be exhausted, and the best way forward is direct diplomacy between Bangkok and Phnom Penh. That being said, while initial reports of an initial agreement for a tentative ceasefire were established, they were then rejected and reversed. So it shows you how quickly news can come out, and by this time this recording goes live, it may already be out of date. Again, the joys of trying to run a geopolitical channel. Still, Thailand maintains that Cambodia must first halt its provocations and cease the border violence. And in the meantime, border clashes continue, and, no side is going to step down for fear of looking weak. China says, of the things that it has said so far, it's deeply concerned and has offered to mediate. Japan and the EU, for what it's worth, have called for restraint. And then comes the United States, which has offered very little beyond warnings for its citizens to largely just avoid the area. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has yet to issue any formal policy speech, and the State Department has been hollowed out by internal reorganization, undermining any capacity for them to really, coordinate what could or should be done in this instance. It's being watched closely, but if Washington fails to respond credibly itself, then regional elites may well interpret it as confirmation that the US is retrenched from Southeast Asia completely, which, will only favour the Chinese and severely weaken any trust or confidence left in America, say from the Japanese, the Philippines, the Koreans, and such. The conflict is more than a border flare-up at this point, in my opinion, though. It's exposing the fragility of ASEAN, limits of the United States diplomacy, and the long tail of colonial grievances. Markets are jittery at a time when they weren't exactly great in Southeast Asia, and civilians are now yet again caught in the crossfire. And I think overall demonstrates that 2025, even more than 24, 23, is a year of continual perpetual instability, a permacrisis, and what I'm now just coining, well, the new international disorder. If you agree with that, then do let me know in the comments. And if you don't agree with that, do let me know in the comments. If you're new here, my name is Pyotr Kurzin. I'm a half Russian, half Brit, raised in the West, but shaped strongly by Slavic influences that I feel give me a unique lens on global affairs, be them outside of Eurasia and into, well, in this case, Southeast Asia. I have a background in strategic studies and economic statecraft from Johns Hopkins SAIS and professional experience in the UN, World Bank, and in the field of, well, Africa and parts of the globe. On this channel, I try to bring you deeper context and sharper insights into the world's geopolitical flashpoints, often with the help of diplomats, analysts, insiders, and journalists to make sense of everything, and whether or not the developments in Southeast Asia are simply another flashpoint or a longer-standing illustration of the times that we now live in. And why not check out this latest video on screen now about, well, the global south, but in the context of the BRICS and how it's actually Putin's biggest problem. Take care, everyone.